Gosh, Bruce, you're sure moving pretty slow these days. Are you sure you can't cut back on eating all those overweight beach patrons? Jesse Shade here for Awfully Good Movies on behalf of the JoBlo YouTube network. And the original idea to turn Jaws 3 into a full-on parody was set to enlist some incredible talent, namely being written by a pre-16 Candles John Hughes and directed by a pre-Gremlins Joe Dante. But with Steven Spielberg threatening to cut off his relationship with Universal if they went through with Jaws 3 People Zero, the studio instead went with the way more dignified idea of turning it into a 3D adventure, right at the height of the 80s 3D boom, with Roy Scheider now being swapped for a young Dennis Quaid as his fully grown son now working at SeaWorld, where he must face off with a killer great white himself after its baby shark dies in their captivity. It would sadly not be the last dumb sequel to a Spielberg classic that's set at a theme park, nor would it be the worst entry in the Jaws franchise. So let us put on those polarized 3D glasses and head on down to Florida for this bigger boated episode of Awfully Good Movies. In 2003, Pixar delighted us with the tale of a nervous clownfish who just kept swimming across the ocean to find his lost son in Finding Nemo. Now, 13 years later, Marlin, Nemo, and Dory are back once again in Finding Dory. And though Pixar's sequels have ranged from utterly amazing to holy Jesus, my eyes, this one sure has a lot of promise and is probably gonna make an ocean full of money. So now let's take a look at another sequel to another famous cinematic fishtail as one of the most iconic films ever made. Yes, Steven Spielberg's Jaws reached many milestones when it opened in the summer of 1975. It made millions of people afraid to go in the water, it turned Steven Spielberg into one of our greatest filmmakers, and it helped create the concept of the summer blockbuster. And after Universal found success with a Spielberg-less sequel in 1978, they decided to really press their luck in 1983 with yet another sequel, Jaws 3D. At the time, studios were anxious to cash in on the 3D movie craze, so Universal saw fit to bring that smiling son of a bitch right into audiences' faces. But audiences saw this for the cheap gimmick that it was, and the third flick ended up grossing way less than the first two and received 5 Razzie nominations. So let's see if Jaws 3D holds any water nowadays, even though this version I'm watching is only in 2D and doesn't have the benefit of that extra sweet D.
Who got that good D?
Jaws 3 got good D! First off, it should be noted that this is the first Jaws movie that doesn't involve Chief Brody. Probably because Roy Scheider read the script for this movie and went, "That's some bad script, Harry." So instead, our film focuses on Brody's fully grown sons, namely Mike Brody, played here by a young Dennis Quaid and now a park engineer for SeaWorld, who's fallen in love with Kay, the park's whale biologist.
What's the matter?
It's just that Dennis found out he's gonna grow up to be the sane brother in the Quaid family. One day, a great white shark follows behind some water skiers into the park, and in true Jaws fashion, gets to killing some hapless swimmers. One of them is an employee for the park, so Mike and Kay investigate his disappearance, only to come across the shark, who snuck into the park and kills people in the dark. And something aardvark? So, seeing an opportunity to have the first great white shark held in captivity, they hunt down the fish and put him to sleep with the help of an oceanographer, played by Simon Manimal McCorkindale, and park manager Calvin Bouchard, played by Lou Gossett Jr. So, Mr. Gossett, you just won an Academy Award for an officer and a gentleman. What are you gonna do next? I'm gonna go to SeaWorld! But Bouchard is anxious to start making some money off the great white, so he immediately puts it out in display to the public.
Move the fish. I'll be able to stand in line and see it before 3.
Yes, because when that mayor kept the beaches open in the first Jaws, we all know nothing went wrong in the slightest.
My boy is dead now.
In this case, though, the shark ends up dying, and the park employees now have to face an even bigger problem when that shark's 35-foot mother comes swimming in for some bloody vengeance.
Mommy's very angry.
And thus you get a movie that feels less like a sequel to an Oscar-winning masterpiece of cinema and more like one of the numerous flicks that ripped off Jaws. Piranha, Tentacles, hell, this movie's on the level of Sharknado, especially when you see the god-awful special effects in this shit. I don't think any amount of 3D would make these blue screen effects any less laughable, nor make these shark effects any scarier. I mean, we all know how Spielberg shot around the bad shark effects in the first movie and managed to make it scarier, but the sharks in Jaws 3D are seen front and center, and they look as convincing as a little kid's bath toys. Also, it's hilarious to me how they try to tie in all this product placement for SeaWorld in a killer shark movie. Yes, come to SeaWorld, where you'll get attacked by sharks, find the rotting corpses of our dead employees, and nearly drown to death in an underwater tank. This movie's the worst possible thing you could associate with SeaWorld. Well, at least until Blackfish comes out. But as bad as this movie is, I didn't say that it wasn't enjoyable. In fact, this is a fun piece of chintzy 3D schlock, even without a stupid pair of glasses, that gives you plenty of bad movie bang for your buck. Watching a movie where the future stars of Enemy Mine scream in terror at the sight of a toy shark is a delight to watch in any dimension. Also, keep in mind that I was originally gonna do Jaws the Revenge for this video, and I gave up on that shit an hour in before I died of boredom. So Jaws 3D feels like The Empire Strikes Back in comparison. And I gotta give this one credit for trying to maintain that same build of suspense as the first movie, though it ultimately and hilariously fails at it. So if you want a fun blend of corny suspense and visual effects that are on par with the Jaws Universal Studios ride,
whoa, that is one big scary shark,
then Jaws 3D is just the ticket. I mean, forget the shark. The scariest thing you're gonna find in this movie is this dude wearing a Shamu costume.
He's got lifeless eyes, black eyes like a doll's eyes.
We're gonna need a bigger keg because it's time to trade in your 3D glasses for some beer goggles to play the awfully good drinking game. Take a shot or drink every time Jaws attacks or kills somebody. Hey, watch this, watch this. Look at me, I'm in a Go-Go's video. Vacation, all I ever wanted. I love that one. They shove another amazing 3D effect at you. Yes, this was back when 3D was nothing but a cheap gimmick that barely did anything, and people ultimately stopped giving a shit about. Hey, wait a minute. Lou Gossett Jr. says, him.
He's a live boy and girl. He gonna be him. Tell Brody to get down here to the Neptune room on the double, yeah? Give me some medical attention here, quick!
Hey, you wanna know what Lou Gossett Jr.'s favorite Beatles song is? Here, there, and everywhere. And take a double shot not only when Dennis Quaid mispronounces AWOL,
W from it's AWL again,
but when they kill Lou Gossett Jr.'s nephew.
Why don't we blow it up?
Listen, nephew.
Look, I'll admit, the only reason I pointed this scene out is that I needed some sort of excuse to reference the Samuel L. Jackson death scene from Deep Blue Sea. So here you go. Woo! Oh, I feel much better now. And on the nudity watch, it wouldn't be a Jaws movie without a lot of bikini-clad victims getting chomped on by a shark. One of them being a young Leah Thompson in her first movie role. And her character has a job dancing in a show with a terrifying-looking mascot. Seriously, the big problem at SeaWorld isn't how they're treating their whales, it's their mascots looking like living nightmares. On the enjoyableness continuum scale from Bull to Bruce, Jaws 3D is so amusingly bad that it's bound to make you smile, you son of a bitch, and explodes into a 7 out of 10. What Marty McFly said about Jaws 19, I'm gonna say about Jaws 3D.
The shark still looks fake.
I'm Jesse Shea for JoBlo.com. And speaking of Jaws sequels, did you know Universal is going to reboot the Jaws franchise? No, I'm not even kidding. They've even got Vin Diesel attached to star in the next movie. So let's go ahead and enjoy this exclusive sneak peek.
head shark, head shark. JoBlo, he sure likes to drink a lot. JoBlo won't just movie like the hero man.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.